Today, Astrid is missing. Infinity learns the truth, and Peyton is closer to his goal. You have to pay for all of this pasta because the Politician After Show starts right now.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
How is everyone doing out there in the internet land? It's the Politician After Show, the Netflix original. We are on episode 4. How are you doing? My name is Flobo Boyce. Thank you so much for keeping me in your life and second screens. Of course, the live chat's going on right now. You can listen to the show on all those podcast networks. More deals about that later on. 4 episodes in. Before we get into how we feel about the episode and the twists and turns, let's introduce our panel. On the far, far left, she is an actress and a lawyer. Give it up, Ms. Latoya Blakely, everybody.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Keep
It's a good day.
keeping it chill. To her right. She's also a lawyer and an author. Give it up for Ms. Fern Ronay.
The lawyers on the left side.
Yeah, I see how it is.
I'm excited about this.
Well, okay. I read a law book once.
I'm sorry.
I know, right? This is real. 4 episodes in. Overall thoughts about the first half of the season here on The Politician?
It's great. I think that, it's amazing writing. It's so relevant to what we're dealing with. I think it's interesting that it is set in a high school because these high schoolers are way more advanced than I was or anyone that I knew was.
Absolutely.
And we're just learning so much. Every episode is just packed full.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I wanted to be a Pokemon master. Fern, thoughts about the season so far?
I love it. I love I love shows with crazy characters. That's why I love Housewives. I just love dissecting characters, and this is chock full of fascinating characters, and I love dissecting them.
Absolutely. The best kinds of shows for me are the ones that always try to break the formula. Like my favorite show of all time was a show called The Shield, and it was like a team-based like cop show, but they broke the team up in one season and guys got reassigned. So this episode for me starts off with a missing persons investigation of Astrid because she is missing. Latoya, talk me through this. Blood everywhere, broken glass. What's up?
Blood everywhere, room trashed. I was like, oh no. Like he did it. He really did it.
Yeah.
And then we found out she's hanging out in New York.
Man, that's a place you don't want to hang out, really.
And like,
I'll tell them it was kind of grody.
Thank you. So they pan across, and I'm like, whose nasty room is this? And then you see Astrid and Ricardo like hanging out in the bed.
Yeah.
So
I was from New York, and I was offended for 10 seconds. I was like, that's mess. Yeah, you're right. There's probably some bed bugs in there, too.
But the bed looks so clean.
Yeah, well, they're great actors. So you, Fern, seeing like the cops and some of the most corrupt cops in California around there during this investigation. Thoughts about how this episode opened?
So the way the last episode ended, I was like, Ricardo's a bad guy and he's doing bad things to her, and there's blood everywhere and everything's trashed and she's probably dead. But then I'm hysterical that this is like the rich girl's version of Disneyland. Like she gets to see how the other half lived by waiting in line, eating at chain restaurants, sleeping in dirty hotels.
Right. I remember the day when Bubba Gump was a payday restaurant, and now you're telling me
now they're making fun of it.
That's messed up, man. How do you feel about Ricardo now? He's kind of changed a bit. He's now kind of like the dope that gets pulled out. $300 was able for him to go cross country to go and Astrid this adventure. Latoya, has your mind changed about him at all a little bit? His motivations a bit?
I don't think that Ricardo's a bad person. Excuse me. And I do think that he loves Infinity. I'm going to throw this to Fern.
Yeah, for sure. How's everyone in the chat? Christian says the thumbnail leaves very little to the imagination. So we definitely are doing a little thumbnail of the episode, clip from the episode here. You can interact with us in the live chat. We'll read all your comments and answer your questions here on AfterBuzz TV. Fern, let me say this. We're in New York. These guys are running from their lives. How do you feel about Astrid's dad, knowing full well that he doesn't know where his daughter is? There's like blood everywhere. What's going on?
Right. I'm like, who would do this to their parents? But she was just so another indication of what it sounds like. She was depressed and sad, and she just went to this extent to feel something. We learn later in the episode that was her motivation, that she'd been given everything in her life. Nothing was interesting anymore. She didn't have to wait in line. She didn't have to eat at crappy restaurants. She didn't have any challenges, and it made her depressed, and she went to this extent to feel something, and she just basically tortured her parents. I can't imagine doing that to your parents, even if they're awful.
About them, and they're kind of weird. Not weird. They deserve each other, but they are kind of offbeat, right?
Yeah, they're horrible.
Well, I actually like the parents, especially the dad. I know. I think it's the lawyer in me. I like people who are just direct and to the point, and like dad doesn't beat around the bush, even with the cops when he's like she's drunk and high and judging by the way her mouth is moving, this is what she's on.
But tact, this last episode, you said about tact, and you're like, oh, I'm cool with it now.
Well,
what happened?
I just said he doesn't have any tact. That's what I said. But he's to the point.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And even mom, like they're all kind of owning it. What was she, a prostitute turned wife? Like
she was an
wife
actress
and
for Audience of
right?
One, which is the most dope way of saying you're a hooker.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool about that. We thought.
Oh no, just that he immediately blames Peyton, which.
Sure.
It seems like a good. He does seem like the logical choice, but he immediately wants him arrested. He's so arrogant. He's like, I want him arrested. I want this, and yeah.
Peyton's underage.
Yeah.
That's kind of cold to be like, that kid over there, you did it. That's so messed up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, when he said that, I was like, forensics? Because no one had like addressed that. I was like, are we not going to check this room and maybe run that blood?
Because that was too expensive. Because the most corrupt cop in Santa Barbara was like, I can't arrest Peyton, he's rich. Unless you give me this watch.
Right?
What? Is there anyone with any redeeming qualities in this town? I feel
honestly.
everyone is just...
I still like Dad. Dad's honest. I like honesty. What can I say?
Yeah, well,
He might be the only honest person.
If I was ever on Clono Pins, I want someone to call me out in public. This guy is on... So the cops actually go after Peyton for questioning, but they put handcuffs on him because...
And then they tell him he's not arrested.
Yeah.
As we've handcuffed you, taken you into the precinct, and not letting you go. And we're telling you you're not arrested. Yes, sir, he is under arrest.
He was detained, sure. The whole thing was the night before he was having an argument in the diner that somehow it kind of came back to bite him in the butt, right? That waitress was like, well, he was totally a mean kid, and he said he was going to kill Astrid. Fern, thoughts about that?
I loved when they do a flashback and he stands up and he's like, screw Astrid, I'm going to kill her.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and then not only did the waitress witness it, but Pierre, the one Haitian kid who they keep badgering, he's like, I've had enough of these people he's turning him into. So yeah, it doesn't look good for Peyton.
Yeah, the entire Haitian block was not pleased with that because they kept polling him.
Yeah.
He was hiding in the back of the
one.
That is so messed up. So thoughts about that, LaToya, having... you're in an outburst, you say, oh, I'm going to kill her or whatever, just having some person in her own bag, in her own feelings, being like, yup, he did it. And the cops just question like we're not really arresting you, we're just going to ask you questions. Like the idea that Peyton would actually kill someone to become president is kind of absurd, is it not?
Well, I mean, we're kind of playing with that idea in general of how far is everyone willing to go, right? And so I think Sky, I don't know if it was in this episode, says, let's assassinate Peyton, right?
Before, he does.
Okay. And so we, clearly, how far are these kids willing to go? I think is the question at this point. We've seen now Astrid has run off. She hasn't faked her death, but she's allowed her parents to think the worst.
Right.
And so what's too much?
I keep thinking that the whole time I was watching the show, I'm like, it's a dark comedy, but how far are they willing to go? Like, is it dark enough that there's going to be another death?
Yeah.
It's a good point because to me, the one of the darkest moments for me was Sky having the vigil. And somehow using it politically to be like, a woman's not going to be silenced. Let's talk about that for a second. Just what was going through your mind overall with that?
I mean, I think Sky is so smart. I think she's a great character. She's very... And she was using this, but I was like, wow. She's like, Astrid is probably dead. I was like, oh
right. And so I will run in her place. Can we find her? Can we bring her back
it's
first?
Like 40 hours.
We,
She's probably dead. I was like, yo, for real?
Give her a little time.
Something to be said about that. Again, this show pulls from other things in the real politics and at the higher level. What is it about using tragedy to further political goal? We see it in the last episode, it was done for good with Rivers Law, but now we're definitely seeing Sky using it to her advantage, wherever that may be, if Astrid is being totally written off. And it's not making news. Thoughts about that, LaToya?
Well, that kind of makes me sad, actually, because I know, but that is the case, so often we use tragedy to our benefit and to bolster our positions or our thoughts about things. And so I think it's bad in the real world, and I think it's bad in the politician in this show. And I think instead that we should use tragedies as an opportunity to really learn and change.
That is deep. Dropping science, man. Yeah, the videos of me really gave me pause. I was like, oh, we're doing this. That's what's up.
Yeah.
But Peyton is, I can't say released. Peyton is back over there.
I was like, was that necessary?
This town is so weird. Trunk transport. Parents bailed them out. We see Peyton's dad again. It was pretty cool. He thought he was walking about. Just thoughts about their parents, Peyton's parents, bailing him out the way they did, and besides having to buy a timeshare for the cop.
Right. I was like, are these means necessary to like put the bag over his head just to avoid. I was like, why did they do this? And then they explain, you have to lay low, you have to avoid the press. That wasn't necessary, or they could have at least told him, like, we're bringing you to your parents, we have to do it this way, but he gets no information. So I thought the means were a little unnecessary, and I thought it was perfectly realistic that they would, of course, pay the police for him to be released and no questions, and it's kind of realistic, sadly.
I was wondering if this town is so boring. They're like, oh, get the bag. You know what I mean? Let's do something fun today. So wrong. It seems like, the parents didn't want him to be all with cameras and stuff, because that would totally ruin his chances of being high school class president. Talk to me, Latoya, about that scene with Peyton and his mom, right? Georgina, sitting down and he's saying, look, I have to do this. I have to win this election because I have these goals. And she cries, right? And she's why? Like, what? I mean, if that's what you want to do, I'll support you, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that other than River, okay, this is like the one pure relationship that Peyton has with Georgina. And Georgina is also a very honest and accountable character. Like, it's clear to me that Georgina has sacrificed a lot of who she is and her personal desires for the sake of this family, and especially Peyton. And the fact that she says, like, I'm willing to do whatever it is to help you achieve your goals, and I'm just afraid of, like, the person that I'm going to become to do this. So I think it's great that they have this relationship, they have this love, but it is a little, once again, like, how much is enough? How far is too far?
True, good point, Fern. Is this relationship unconditional and pure, or is it almost like an inverse toxicity where the mother is so devoted to Peyton's goals that any means necessary?
Right. I like when she said exactly what you said, that, I'm afraid what it'll turn me into, because I want to help you, I want to see you achieve your dreams. I feel like unconditional love, yes, it's the most pure form, mother and child, but if it turns you into someone who hurts other people for the sake of your child, that's not a good thing. That's not healthy. That's not a good thing. So I think there has to be some, her love is almost a flaw here, because she's readily admits she'll do whatever it takes to help her son. And it's not necessarily a good thing if she's going to end up hurting people. And it sounds like that's what she was foretelling.
Yeah.
So that's not always a good thing.
Yeah, Mom of the Year so far? No? Maybe?
I do think she is pure, and I do think she's full of love, but I think sometimes that's a flaw in itself if it's going to cause you to do something that's not morally right.
Love, man, makes you some great stuff.
Yeah. But we haven't seen her do anything wrong yet.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what she does.
Yeah. Do you think she'll do anything wrong?
No, but I think
this is a weird town.
But I think the fact that she acknowledges that about herself says a lot.
Yeah.
In itself.
You know what? Again, maybe taking a step back from the show, I was like, man, I could imagine, like, Gwyneth Paltrow getting the script, being like, are we doing this? All right, we're totally going ahead and doing it. Props for that. But before we move on, can you tell the world how people can listen to this AfterBuzz show and other AfterBuzz shows? Yes, we are the ESPN of TV Talk. So anytime you are obsessed with the show, there is an after show for that. Come to AfterBuzz TV. You will find super fans just like yourself discussing and dissecting the show. So please rate, review, subscribe. Look for us. Look for your favorite show. There's an after show for it. And if you leave us a 5-star review, we will read it on the next episode. Oh, wow. We would?
I think so.
Probably make a note of that.
I'm making promises like a politician.
But you can keep it.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? Let's go back more into the relationship between Infinity and Ricardo, right? These guys are kind of like star-crossed lovers in their own right. But taking a step back, Peyton actually goes to Infinity and says, look, this is the deal. Your grandmother is poisoning you, which is true. But you can imagine someone outside of your family talking about your family. Latoya, talk to me through that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Infinity maybe on her own had gotten to the point to where maybe she was also starting to question some things, because she seemed very receptive to that information. And so maybe receiving that information, kind of thinking back on some of her experiences, when she finally does confront Dusty, she brings up the shots and why is it that no one else can give me these shots? And I think she knows that Ricardo loves her. Yeah. And she loves him, and so she was willing to at least hear what he had to say and, like, process it and think about it.
Was it a mistake, Fern, for Peyton to say, look, we tested your blood?
Yeah, well, I think, no. I think, like, we have the proof. Like, we're not just saying that your grandmother's doing this. We have the proof that you're not sick. So I think he had to say that. But I also think just how this show is so on, another plane, in that these kids are just not acting like kids. If they have this information and they know that this grandmother is doing this to her grandchild, tell an adult. Like, they're like
Right.
giving this information.
They handle everything by themselves.
Under wraps, you know. If
Like,
it
go
takes
to the police or something. I don't know.
No, it's a good
Yeah.
point. We'll let the police. The police
Yeah,
get
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
But caring adult is definitely something you want to do. Infinity had her moment, man, at the pasta bar. You know, telling Dusty, like, I know what you're doing. And Dusty, of course, flips out the way that seems kind of like patented now. You know exactly how she's going to take it. Fern, just talking to me about this. If you're Dusty and literally your meal ticket is saying, I'm out, how would you take it?
If I were Dusty?
Yeah.
Oh, she reacted exactly the way Dusty would. She said, you have the IQ of a kindergartner. She tried to knock her down so that she can keep her where she's had her this whole time, which in effect gets them free trips everywhere and money and whatever else. And she reacted exactly the way you would expect her to. But it's such great writing that, you know, she said like that line and a few other things. And and I was proud of Infinity that she was a little defensive wasn't she defensive, am I remembering correctly, in the church when Peyton told her.
Like, why would she lie to me?
But that she was smart enough to be like, something doesn't add up, like you said.
Yeah.
And I was proud of her that she confronted her, because I was like, is she too weak of a character that maybe she'll just run away and not confront her grandmother? But she presented all the evidence like about Ray, and so I thought it was a great scene, and I love that she stormed out, and I love that she grabbed the pasta.
It's totally on brand for the show, because it wasn't like the songs were playing and it was like, how could you, Grandma? It was kind of like, no, it sucks, you know, out the wheelchair, see you out there. And poor Dusty has to probably pay for her pasta.
Yeah.
Right? But there's a moment there we think all is lost for Infinity, right? It's kind of like, well, I don't got my job, I got fired from my job, I can't talk to my grandma, I don't know what our relationship is with Ray, but it's pretty much damaged, right? I'm single, but there is that call she receives from Ricardo.
Yeah.
Saying, out there, look, I'm all sexed out. It's raw. I'm done. I'm coming back home to you. Thoughts about that, Latoya? She actually has her man ready to come back.
Well, you know what? I never thought that all was lost for Infinity. Like, to me, no, Infinity just has a spark about her, and I've never doubted her ability to like be and do whatever it is. And also, she's to the point. When she has that information about her grandma, she doesn't beat around the bush. She calls her out. When she's ready to break up with Ricardo, she calls him up and she says it's over. And then when he called her, the fact that she was like, where are you?
Yeah.
Like, she didn't worry about any small talk, just where are you?
Well, he did watch a musical without her. That was kind of
did.
like cross the line. Yeah. I watched Frozen.
So, yeah,
That's respect. Like, you like the most forward characters in the show.
I do. That's
right, because she's presented so weak, like with her, you know, with the hair.
Yeah.
But she is strong, actually, like in her actions and her words.
Yeah. And shout out to Ricardo for saying, like, this could be great, but I'm done. And you don't, you know, there's reason for you to come back, but I'm going to go back to my lady, right? I guess that's, granted, he did cheat on his girlfriend, but I'm just saying, telling the one he cheated on with, like, yo, this is done. You got to get
Well, she
an
broke
adult.
up with him, so he's probably like, I'm free. I might as well run off with the rich girl. But in the end, he was...
He's like, that's not direct at all. I don't like it. What's up, Latoya?
I was just going to say, back to what I said in the last show, Ricardo has this thing for sex. Like, he's very tapped into like sexuality and being physically aroused, asking to see Astrid's areola of all things, and then asking if he could take a pair of her panties.
I loved when Astrid was like, I've always heard dumb people are better at sex, and he was not offended. He's like, she's like,
I am dumb.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, sorry, but to go back to episode 1, because River complained, why are you always faking? Why are you never engaged when we are intimate? And then with Ricardo, she's like, I can't get enough. I want more.
Right.
Wow.
Yes,
Astrid, you're so complex.
Yes.
So let's talk about the case, because Astrid is contemplating her existence, right? Which means she's alive. Peyton actually gets vindicated from this, from some help from Alice, which I thought was definitely something I didn't think she would do at first, but I think it, to its show's credit, it kind of like paid off on the back end where we saw Alice break down. Fern, talk me through this. Like, Alice's motivation for the polygraph test and what that means for the relationship.
Right. She's so smart in how she studies a polygraph test, figures it out, passes, says lies, and says she was with Peyton that night. What is her motivation? Is it because she wants to be first lady? Because I don't think these two are like a one true love. Do they really love each other?
I don't know if it's a good story if they say
partnership that they understand each other. They both want the same thing. it doesn't seem like that's not the recipe for happiness.
You know what? There's a conspiracy theorist that said that, like, a couple politicians before, I can't name them here because I don't want to be bipartisan, but like, there's some relationships where it's like this package deal. Hey, you want this? I can't become president if I'm not married, because there's only been one president who hasn't been married. You mentioned before, James Buchanan. Look it up. It is kind of a mutual advantage. If you're married to the president, or if you are the first man, if the woman becomes president, there's some advantage you have there as well. So I get that, but you're right. At this level, it's kind of like there has to be something to make you originally go, yes. I feel like there's something that's missing that made Alex goes, yes. Thoughts?
Well, I actually do think they love each other. I mean, I think that love comes in all kinds of forms, and people love in the way that they're capable of loving. Alice is so calculated, which is just so interesting to me. I don't know if I've ever seen a person in real life, or even another character, that's just as calculated as Alice is. I think that she needs Peyton in some way, and Peyton obviously needs her, and they're committed to each other in this goal.
I get some Claire Underwood vibes for sure. Like the first 2 seasons where it's like, I'll support you, but you're not going to cry, but I'll support you otherwise. Here's a cigarette, kind of like, I'll help you, I'll fuel your dreams, but I'm not going to coddle you, or I'm not going to be like, poor baby. Yeah. But I did like the scene when she took off her glasses at the pool, because that was like a character moment, being like, okay, this is the shell Alice, but beyond that, I get you. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thoughts about Astrid just walking in back into her life, being like, I'm not dead. Woo! Fern?
Like, if I were her mother, I would hug her and kill her. Like,
she got a slap for it.
Yeah, she did.
Well, not for that, but
she did. And then it was a heart-to-heart with her mother. In a sense, she explained that she didn't feel things. Everything was so easy, and she had to do this terrible decision. But then it was also, like, I think back to the hotel when Ricardo kind of said to her, you worked so hard for all of this, and then you just gave it up. And then it kind of gave her the confidence to come back and try to win the election. And he said, I'd vote for you. And it was a little bit of a tearjerker moment. Like, nobody probably ever spoke to her like that. Like, gave her true confidence, and it motivated her to come back and try for something. Everything else is so easy in life. Can she win the election? She's gonna go for it.
This seems odd as, like, no, like, familiar repercussions. That's why your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that's why she could walk back in, right? Like, you do whatever you want to do. You've been gone. Okay, now I'm tired of being gone, and I'm coming home, and it's good to see you too, parents. Because like, if I'd ever scared my mother, there would have been a belt waiting for me, and who knows what else,
like on a platter,
right? Yeah. So I just think that that's representative of her life and the way she gets to call her own shots. She went out there, she did this thing, which I think was really good for her. And now it's over and done with, and I'm back home. And I liked when her mom reacted the way she did, because I think that was the first time that Astrid was like, oh, wait a second, like, maybe you actually do care about me.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So we're talking about repercussions here, probably not from her family, but the polls are all over the place. One of my favorite scenes of the show so far is Chris, the chief data strategist, breaking down that, hey, you had it in the bag. You had it was going on, but you went out for a week, and because of that, the polls are within the margin of error, and it was very, very scientific, even though it was all fake numbers. I was like enthralled, like, oh yeah, I guess there's a lot of math in this now. Running for elections like sports, right? Just thoughts about that, the fact that Astrid could have possibly stood up her own demise. Latoya?
I mean, that's life, right? Right? Like, how many times do we get in our way?
Yeah, that's deep.
Right?
For sure.
And so I respect the fact that Astrid came back and, like, owned up to her truth. Because her mom was like, nope, we're not going to do that. It's Ricardo's fault. We're going to spin it, and you're going to be fine. And Astrid was like, no. That's not what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to be honest and, like, tell the people what happened and where I've been. I think it was interesting that her mom was like, people like us don't do that. Mom seemed to forget about those prostitution days and that very, like, humble beginning.
How quickly she forgets where she came from.
Right, which then led to the slap, because that's what Astrid says. Like, you're a prostitute and drug addicted. Like, that's who my mom is.
Right.
And she got that nice slap across the face.
Right. So the idea of Chris telling, Astrid and Sky, the point of her, she may be losing the election, and Sky is frustrated. In fact, this is the break we see between Astrid and Sky. Thoughts about that? Watching how strong Sky got, and this break right here.
It's amazing how they all will cross party line. They'll do whatever. They're all so ambitious. They're all so manipulative.
They're all villains, man.
They're all villains. It's so true, which makes it so interesting. And so when she asked to join the Peyton's ticket, I was shocked. And he was like, I have to think about it. She's like, it's tomorrow.
Right.
I was shocked, but I was like, she knows they all know what they want. She knows what she wants. Like, all right, if that's what's going to win, Astrid blew it for herself. So now she wants to be part of a winning ticket. Go for it.
Yeah.
I do wonder if Sky has such like political ambitions, why she didn't run on her own.
Good point. That is a very good point. I mean, you can draw a lot of things about what young people are and being like the inciting incident and having someone say, we need you. But then you're right. If you are that about it, you should be like, that's my ticket.
Right.
Definitely a shocking thing, but not as shocking as her and McGaffey. What? Yes! What? Now, listen, I'm open. I just thought McGaffey had no time for love at all, like Batman. You know, the mission is the mission. But that last scene was cute, it was a tender moment, but I didn't see it coming. You guys see it coming at all?
Not at all.
I want like a chart, like all of these people are all hooking up with each other all over the place.
Wow, Latoya, what's up?
Well, so at first I was like, did Sky expect this? Because, you know, there was like the hand and she went into it like she was expecting it and saw it coming. But then when McAfee says, like, I want this more than anything, the same thing, I was like, wait, what? Like, how did I miss this?
I know. It was like, were they hooking up all along, but then maybe not? I was so confused.
I will accept any and all theories because they came out of nowhere for me.
It did.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, it's all great. I mean, everyone is probably have somebody in the show. Why the heck not, right? So we are closer to the election. I know we're going to talk about that in the next episode. It does seem like there's kind of like a seesawing thing. If you were a student at Sebastian High School, would you have voted for Astrid or Peyton? No, as a moment in episode 4, like, would you? Is anyone more redeeming than the other? I guess is the question to ask.
That's hard. That's so hard.
I would close my eyes.
I know, right?
There are no winners in politics, kids. Moving on, it's now time for our special segment. It's now time for the most tender moment. As we talk about a scene in this episode where you both like. Latoya, I want to start with you. What was the one that made you go, man, that's great?
Oh, that's hard. Maybe I'm on an Astrid kick. I like Astrid. So maybe when she stood up to her mom and said, no, I'm going to own my truth and I'm going to be honest about like what's happened. Yeah. And I like when she was like, I got to live like poor people. And it was great.
I feel attacked. I feel incredibly attacked.
I liked when Ricardo said, you know, how much he misses Infinity. And then he says to Astrid, you know, they're in the hotel in New York. And he said, don't you miss anyone? And she's like, no. And it's so telling and so sad. I feel like she's such a lonely girl.
Wow. I think I'm going to pick yours now. I was going to say that fight between Infinity and Dusty, because if she's the only person in your family and you're just like, I'm done with you, like, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
But I like that too, because I had 2, Infinity scenes in a row, so I feel like I'm going to change my vote to that scene. Moving on, it's now time for our news segment.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Latoya, tell us something in news and informative.
That is me. So Lana Levine, who is an actress, has launched a web talk show called Little Known Facts, and it is a sister broadcast to her podcast by the same name. And Ben Platt was her inaugural interview for the new web talk show. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be the host of a talk show. If I say it out loud enough, the secret
You
says.
I know. I'm like, that's what
this is
we're working on, right?
I mean, it was what we talking.
They're awesome.
So we are about 4 episodes in. The rest of the half is coming down. The other half of this, I know we don't really do predictions on these kind of shows, but just thoughts about the tone and how do you think it's going to go as far as like stakes? Just overall thoughts we got here.
Well, we're getting closer to election, and so I'm interested to see who's going to win and how that shakes out. But something else, I want to know who Sky's parents are. We've gotten to see a lot of like family dynamics of other characters, but we don't know anything yet about Sky and where she comes from.
I hope that gets addressed for sure.
Yeah, Sky and McAfee and River. I don't think we ever met his parents, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we did.
I don't think so.
Like,
either.
are they? Yeah, where are they? Yeah, all of them. I love seeing families.
Yeah, I want
And I
backstories
love
all day.
seeing. I love backstory.
Yeah.
I just do. I just want to know more. And I would love to hear more about how Dusty got to this place.
Oh,
Her
yeah.
backstory.
Yeah, Dusty is definitely one I want more insight of how did she decide to go from evil to more than I don't know if you call it evil, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Having her motivation change, that'd be great. But it's now time for us to get out of here. Latoya, can you tell the world where they can find you online and follow you?
I am on Instagram at Latoya.Blakely and on Twitter at Latoya Blakely.
You can find me, Fern Ronay, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Fern Ronay, Ronay, and my website, fernronay.com.
Of course, I'm Flobo Boyce. You can follow me on Twitter at Flobo Boyce, on Instagram at Flobito, and of course, Flobito.com. Stick around. Episode 5 is coming up today. And if you could look at also on our iTunes and Spotify, get all the episodes, binge them like how you want to binge the show. But until next time, buzz you later.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.